The car business is rapidly changing, and modern car dealers are meeting the demand. I'm Michael Cirillo, and together we're going to explore what it takes to create a thriving dealership and life in the retail automotive industry. Join me each week for inspiring conversations with subject matter experts that are designed to help you grow. This is the Dealer Playbook. Hey, my friend, welcome to this episode of the Dealer Playbook. Before we hop in, I thought I should just provide you a little bit of context into how this episode is going to play out a little bit different than some of the other episodes where it's just myself and our awesome guest. Yes, you're going to hear from Reda, the top performing car sales professional on planet Earth, but you're also going to hear some other voices on the call asking him questions. And the reason for that is because I am presenting to you exclusive audio from an office hours call that we do once a month here at FlexDealer.com for clients only. So I'm giving you the goods, the behind the scenes. You didn't know this happened, but now you kind of do know that it happens. Most importantly, you're going to hear Reda, who in 2017 sold 1,530 new vehicles and 52 used vehicles. You're going to hear him talk about how he moved through the pandemic, saw it as an opportunity, saw it differently than a lot of people. You're going to hear him talk about how, yes, he was kind of furloughed and laid off the same way that other car sales professionals were, but how he's bounced back in an incredible way. He is a shining light in the industry, but that's why you're going to hear this episode play out just a little bit different. I hope you enjoy it. Let's dive into this exclusive FlexDealer.com office hours call with Reda. So my first question to you is this, to kind of kick off the conversation. I want to touch on the mindset side of this equation. Yeah. Everybody goes into panic mode, and it's not just a pandemic. It could be anything going on in life or different circumstances. In this case, they're referencing the pandemic, which here on after, once we're all open, shall never be spoken of again. And you say you see it as an opportunity. Well, I believe it requires a specific mindset in order to see opportunities amidst the chaos. Can you bring us a little bit inside of where your mindset is at and how you've gotten to that point?
Yeah, and most people's mindset is, how do I capitalize on this, right? How do I get in there and how can I monetize it? And that's just the wrong approach. That's the approach that kind of gets you stuck and gets you in trouble. And you're brainstorming, well, how could I make money? Or how could I, go out and buy masks and turn a profit? And how can I go get sanitizer where nobody can get it and turn a profit? Rather than having that mindset of, gosh, my community, my brothers and sisters, my family members, they're hurting. They're out here and they need help. And they need somebody that can step up to the plate, that has the connections, that has the know-how, that has the ability to do something that will change somebody's life and maybe save somebody's life furthermore, right? So when you take away the monetary reasons and take away the mindset of, if I'm not getting anything out of it, I'm not going to do it. Why would I do that for, right? It takes time, it takes money, it takes energy. Why would I do that? And in the pandemic, when that started out, man, people were crying for help. And, without getting too deep into it, but, government was hands were tied. Cities and states' hands were tied. Nobody knew what was going on. We did not know the outcome. Had we knew the outcome, it'd be a lot easier and a lot smoother and people would have been more relaxed. We did not know the outcome. So like the article says, right, I was off of work. So I didn't know when I was going to go back to work. I didn't know if I was going to go back to work. I didn't know any of that stuff was going to happen. But what I did know is my community needed my help. And they needed supplies. They needed, love and support. They needed, PPE. And for me, I saw the opportunity of helping. I saw the opportunity of, okay, here I am. How do I give back? How do I give back to a community that has loved and supported me my entire career, not just for work relation reasons, just my personal life too. So, I saw the opportunity of an easy entry point to get into your community and do right by your community and do it for the right reasons. And, I started a couple of different campaigns at the time, and I says, hey, I have connections, right? I've gotten to know a lot of people over the years, and I have connections, and And I was able to get masks and PPE supplies and get those things out to people who needed them. Well, rather than, and also, Michael, I'd spent my own personal money because we weren't open. Dealership wasn't open. I mean, nothing was going on. I says, you know what, this is going to take, $5,000 or $7,000 to kind of get these things out to people. And I felt that was right. I literally got my kids involved in it. So I was able to get some masks and get some supplies. And rather than driving to the hospital and saying, here's a box of supplies, do what you will with them, I literally reached out to all my customer base, all my family and friends that I knew were nurses, doctors, firefighters, any first responder. And I said, hey, I have a limited supply of masks. Let me know who needs them. And I started a group chat. And the group chat grew and grew and grew. And it grew so much that I actually turned it into a website called dearborncares.com, where people were driven to that website. And then they can go on there and call me and text me and let me know, what they needed. And I was physically driving these masks to houses of my customers and family members. And people call me, oh my God, my daughter's been wearing the same mask for a week and she can't go to work. And I would pull up to these houses and give them what I could. And the love and support and the reciprocation was just an amazing outpour from the community. And then I was just getting calls like crazy. And I couldn't believe how many people were just scared, right? They were scared of, parents crying, saying that, please, if you can help me, my daughter, my son needs help. And, to me, that was an opportunity to give back. That was an opportunity to do something that was right and felt right. And that's how you grow within your community, right? I didn't say, hey, I have masks for $5 or $12. I didn't say, hey, this is what it cost me. None of that came about. All I knew is they needed help. And, I felt like I was a person that could contribute, albeit a small portion or whatever it was, but I did my part and I felt good about it. And that's what giving back is about, right? Doing it for reasons, from your heart, not from your pocketbook or any other alternative reasons.
I think this is so tremendous. It resonates, I think, with all of us at Flex at such a deep level. Some might in the industry might call this psychobabble. That's recently been a thing. Yet here you are proving that the best way to grow in business is to grow in the other facets of your life. Like how can you quantify the feeling you get from serving other human beings? I think is tremendous. Briar, you had a question?
Yeah, no, just more a comment to say that, first of all, my hat's off to you. And I just have so much respect for folks that are in a position to provide that kind of mutual aid and that kind of direct to the people that need the most care. Is so tremendous. And just to underscore kind of what you were saying, it's like cutting through to the humanness, right? And wanting to build those connections out of a place of genuine wanting the desire to give, and you're in a position to do so. And I think that really is something that could be applied to our relationship building within our communities, pandemic or not.
Right.
So just great learning and leadership.
Yeah, and you carry that with you, like you said, with all facets, I mean, it doesn't have to be a pandemic. I mean, I've been involved in my community for many years in charity organizations and fundraisers and doing things for kids. And, it's great. It actually gives you a positive energy. It gives you life. It makes you feel good about yourself for doing something. It's a way that you can give back, to show appreciation for everybody else's love and support. I mean, you can't just take and expect never to give. And again, it was done for the right reasons. It helps somebody. I can look back and say, hey, I did my part and I feel good about it. A lot of people afterwards, will think back and say, well, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. And, I was at home, everything was closed. So people were home. They had time, right? You couldn't travel. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't go to restaurants. You couldn't do anything. So, literally I took it. I think I sat for one day and I says, oh my God, can't see her for I don't know how long. They didn't say it was, hey, 2 weeks and you're going back to work, or 3 weeks. Nobody knew the time frame. So, we were guessing at that point what was going to happen. And, I instantly, like everybody says, stay ahead of the curve. We stayed ahead of the curve. I mean, we stayed ahead of it. And, by doing that, coming out of the pandemic, and then once we finally realized we were going to open back up, we were so far ahead of everybody else of just in the dealership life, because we didn't stop. We stopped selling, but we started doing everything. Then I got the dealership involved after that. And we were so far ahead of the CDC guidelines and what we could do, what we couldn't do. We were so far ahead of the curve. We came out of it. And when we were able to open, we ended up finishing number one as a store out of our zone, for the first time ever. And that was because we were prepared. We stayed ahead of the curve. We didn't just, sit home and watch TV all day and watch the news and CNN and drive yourself crazy. But, it was just, it falls into place when you do it for the right reasons. And it's continuing to do so right now.
For sure. And that kind of goes to a question that I had for you, which was around like listening back to your episode on the DPB. You talk a lot about, that you're not super involved in social media, that your connection to your audience, your potential buyers, is rooted in community and being, present. And so I was curious, but I think you've kind of answered it already in part. Yeah. I was curious how that had changed during the pandemic when you were unable to, as you say, meet folks in restaurants and stop at 20 tables on your way. Yeah. How that shifted, but perhaps it was through that kind of direct community outreach. Would you say that was how you stayed connected to people?
Yeah, and you're right, because I'm not a huge social media guy, and I don't have anything against it. I just never really had the time to put myself out there and get involved, and that's where marketing and everything is shifting towards social media. But I'm still a hands-on guy. I still believe in the power of human touch. I still believe that, when somebody knows you and loves you and hugs you, they're never going to forget that. Way different than just liking a photo or looking at you on social media. It is important, but if I meet a person and, you have that impact on their life, or you just a simple hello and a smile, that to me is going to go a lot further than, liking a photo that they put online. That's instantly they recognize it and it's forgotten. And emotional attachment is unlikely to be forgotten. So if my name comes up at another point in time, they'll be like, oh my God, he was so nice. I met him once and I'll never forget meeting him. They were never going to say, oh yeah, once he liked my photo. It's just not going to get there, right? So there is a need for it. But during the pandemic, the way I did stay connected was through somewhat social media, but I started, the campaign, dearborncares.com. I put up a huge billboard right in the middle of our community, and it was a huge billboard where cars drive by, and it said, "Thank you, first responders. Dearborncares.com. We're here for you." And left that message with my name up there so people recognize that. So we were doing it that way, but eventually it was going to come back around where things were going to come back, people were going to open, and again, I still stayed in contact with the community through those. Giving away the PPE and doing all, fundraisers and what we did. So, I think, it's important, but the years that I built the relationship with the community got me through it without having to really worry too much about it. I wasn't going to fade away just because, I wasn't on social. They're never going to forget that.
And you say, right, in the podcast, one of the favorite takeaways that I had written down was, we might operate in 30-day cycles at the dealership level, but this is not a 30-day career, right?
It's not. Yeah, that's so on point because, the dealership life, people measure us in 30-day increments, right? What'd you do the last 30 days? What'd you do this month? What'd you do that month? Well, I came on and said, well, it's irrelevant. I don't know where my numbers are. I don't care where they are. What's important to me is that next person and for me to keep moving. So my career is not measured in 30-day increments, right? It's a lifetime. So I simply tell people now that I have no beginning and I have no end. So it doesn't matter what I did yesterday. It doesn't matter what I did last year or last month. I don't follow the numbers because I have no end. December 31st is every day to me. So it doesn't really make a difference. And it is so solid to think that way, to have that urgency, yet to understand that, you're there for the right reasons and not rush. And, for us in the dealership life, they're always like, we want it now, do it now, do it now. Don't let the customer leave. But I'm not selling from scarcity. I'm not worried about them not coming back. I'm not worried about them shopping me other places. I encourage it, and I want them to be able to have that experience of why they bought a car from me, why they came to service with me, not because they had to, or because, they felt it was, $10 a month cheaper, because that's not, that's a one-time, one night stand. I'm looking for that relationship.
So Ollie, I have a follow-up question to this, but real quick, I just want to welcome a few more people to the call. I see Connor, Alyssa, Linnea, Melinda. Welcome to Office Hours. We've got Ollie Reda, the one and only top selling sales professional. In my mind, still the Guinness record holder. I don't care. I don't care what anyone says.
Who cares what they said? It didn't matter. Yeah.
We don't subscribe to the drama. We look at the numbers. We look at the facts. But anyways, you've also written a book, How to Sell 100 Cars a Month, which I think is tremendous. And that's actually where I want to kind of dive into that just a little bit. Sorry, before I do, I'm so excited. I'm getting ahead of myself. So for those that have just joined us, Office Hours is a very casual conversation where we get to meet with a subject matter leader. In this particular case, no better on the topic of selling cars as an active car sales professional than Ollie Reda. If you have questions, please feel free, unmute and ask your question. And we'd love for you to join the conversation and extract as much as you possibly can. Now, you probably weren't always selling 100 plus cars per month. And I don't know, were you born with the aspiration to be a car sales professional? Like when you got started, I mean, the industry really hasn't changed much. So all of this talk about mindset and the law of reciprocity and being an active, integral member of your community, have you always had that? Did you have that coming into the business, or was there a light bulb moment for you?
Yeah, it wasn't, of course, I didn't even know that I would ever be a car salesman. Back in 2001, I was just starting out my life. I was getting engaged and said, I'm going to start out a family. And I was at a decent job, and I just felt that, I was at the job for 10 years and I felt I needed more. And I thought, hey, for the next 10 years, I'll probably be doing the same thing. So, I felt there was more in me, and I knew I wanted to do sales. I felt like that was, my passion, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be auto sales, if it was real estate. I kind of looked at both and just kind of fell in love with the auto sales portion of it. But, the whole giving back, I was fortunate enough to kind of work next to a guy named Jerry Turfey, who would sit at his desk and people would just come in and he just laughed for a few minutes and then ended up, driving off with the new car. And I'm like, man, this guy's so easy. And I'm running the parking lot. I'm trying to get somebody to just say hi to me, right? I'm running around, I'm sweating, and this guy's just sitting in the air conditioning. I'm like, man, I want to be like that guy. And, I kind of was able to watch him over the years and mimic the things that he did. And he was active, and, he was probably doing 35, 40 steady. Our industry never told us that 100 was possible. So I never knew that 100 was actually possible. They always put limitations on us, and this mindset, the whole mindset idea, Michael, came, I think after we started talking about, how I achieve things and talking about my career, and people started talking about a little bit more about mindset, and Damian Boudreaux, my coach, who, started talking about it and teaching it. And we wrote that book together. And then people started kind of realizing, hey, maybe there is more, maybe there is no ceiling. Maybe, anything is possible. And, when I was watching Jerry work, and he'd come in, like I said, and he was active in his community. And I kind of was fortunate enough to be able to work at a store to see something like that. And then just said, hey, there's more, right? There's more time. I can do more than what people are saying you can do. People told me you couldn't do more than 30. 30 is the limit in our industry. You're elite. How much more do you possibly want? And, then when you break those barriers, when I hit 40 and I'm like, man, 40 is okay. I could do 50. And at 50, I couldn't see 100, but at 50, I could see 65. And at 65, I saw 75, and I saw 90, and then I saw 100. And then, at this point now, I mean, my record is 209 in a month. That was December of 2020. And, and that's not the limit. There's going to be somebody out there that's going to come through and figure out a more efficient, faster process and a faster way of doing it. And it's probably going to be one of these social media gurus that just knows everybody. Who knows? It's crazy to think, but you got to have a mixture of both. And at some point, there is no limit. I mean, you can think of faster, smarter ways of doing things, and they will. And hopefully they use the blueprint that I set forth throughout my career and have an easier path, because I didn't have anything to gauge it off of. Right. A lot of trial and error.
Real quick, just to tie that one off for me, where can we get a copy of your book?
You can actually, for everybody here, you can get a free download of the book. They sell a copy on Amazon, but a free download at howtosell100cars.com. And you can get a free download. It's a quick read. It was the first book that I wrote, and it was more of just kind of getting back to the basics, right? It's not tactical, it's mindset and getting people back to the basics, because it seems like a lot of times we forget on how to just be patient, start over, relax, and let things come to you. Damien and I are working on another book here that would come out pretty soon that I think is going to be really phenomenal, about a little more tactical.
Well, can I put you on the spot when that one comes out and get a commitment here that both of you will join me on the podcast?
Absolutely. Done. Absolutely, man. You'll love it. It's probably going to be a game changer, because there's a lot of faults that happen in the dealership, and we kind of focused on that and the way things operate. And we went through dealerships that are very successful and why they're successful versus others that are not. There's a lot of things in there that's very educational for somebody to help their dealership as a whole grow.
Amazing. All right. Really cool. I see a hand from Jason and then Whit.
Yeah.
I had myself double muted there just to be extra sure. So it took me a second, but I think that's a really interesting point that you highlighted at the end there when you said, some of these social media gurus, I'm sure there's a ceiling for them to come in and break records at some point. But I think that there's a really definitive part that doesn't change, and that's the process once you've hit acquisition. Social media, ads, paid media, all of that makes it easier to get acquisition if you know what you're doing and if you've figured out kind of the algorithm, so to speak, and how to get people. But what doesn't change is how you handle people once you've got them. And that's a really, really critical piece. And that's kind of where you get that roadmap of building success for yourself. And if it takes you 8 hours to work a deal, you're not going to sell 100 cars a month unless you're working 800 hours a month, right? So the process is really where that comes into play. And even if you're implementing the best that you can on digital media and social media, if you don't have that process locked in, then it's not going to. And there's a lot of dealerships out there that are going, I want more leads, but it's like,
how do you handle them?
Right, exactly.
How do you handle them? Right.
How are you handling the leads you already have?
Yeah, because you could get as many people coming your way in your funnel as you want. But again, you're right. I mean, how are you treating them, and what kind of experience are you giving them? If you wanted to do something as a one night stand and just sell them and done, I mean, that's a whole different story. But if you're building a career and you want it to be a relationship type career, I mean, that's where the longevity comes in. That's where, 20 years for me counting, comes in. I mean, it's not an overnight sensation. And, that's the one fault with social media. I mean, you're hot right now, but the next day, something new comes out, and all of a sudden, there's TikTok, and all of a sudden there's, another platform, and, things are going to change, and you're not going to carry that same weight as you do, again, by actually knowing somebody, by actually having dinner with somebody, by getting to know their family members. I mean, you're not going to get that reciprocation. I don't care how many people on social media, and do they truly know you? They know of you, but they don't know you. Those are completely two different things.
Would you say, sorry to interject, but just before Whit there, that there's something to be said then about dealers that are maybe in the mindset right now of, we need lead generation through whatever channels. I don't care really if it's social, paid media, whatever the case may be. Right. We need leads. And You're saying, it's more about the everyday action of being a person that's visible in your community, and or like how you handle them thereafter. Once you get the lead, what do you do with the lead, right?
Yeah, and most people are not aware of that, right? And most people don't see that. So yeah, we can blast as many ads that we want out there, but if you don't have the correct personnel to handle it and handle it properly, like Jason said, with the right process in place, you're just going to lose those. And even online, like with emails and the BDC department and that, they're looking to retain 3, 5, 7%. To me, that's such a small amount. What do you do with the 90% you didn't sell? Why do we just forget about those people? Because they don't have family members, they don't have spouses, they don't have siblings. We just completely dismiss the 90% that didn't buy a car, and we just let them go and then worry about trying to retain 5 or 7 or whatever percentage they want. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm going for the 80, 90%, right? I'm going for the sure thing. And people with social media, they think that they have to appeal everybody abroad, right? It's like, oh my God, I got to be known. I'm in Michigan. I got to be known in California, and I got to be known in Seattle. And I just need to be known in my little city right here, because there's, 200,000 people. How many people do I need, right? How many people do I need? Is the 200,000, can that last me as the community grows and I grow with it? Will that last me a career? Of course it will. It's in my backyard. So I don't need to worry about, being the most popular person on social media. It does nothing for me. So, at some point we have to realize, even as a dealership as a whole, I would rather focus my time on building each salesperson within their own community, and then having each one of those people develop, 30, 40, 50 cars. And then if you have 10 of those, well, you're selling 500, 600 cars, and which is a great number. And you're just doing it based on, community building. And, I don't think we need to get that crazy about, blasting ads everywhere. I don't have any on social media.
So with that in mind, you're taking very much a leap of faith in this action that doesn't have an input and an output one-to-one. What advice would you give to either individuals or dealership owners that might be afraid to step out of the 30-day cycle and might be afraid of this intangible effort that you've experienced the outcome of, but maybe they haven't before?
It's just a good question, Whit, but it's just a flawed mindset. So basically they say, okay, well, if we want to sell 100 cars, we know the national average for a salesman to sell a month is 10. So if we want to sell 100, we need 10 salespeople. If we want to sell 200, it's 20 salespeople. And that's their business plan, right? And it's not a bad business plan. That's how they started the dealership. But at some point, you got to say, how do I grow? I can't hire 50 salespeople to do 500 cars. You have to at some point say, all right, how do I empower these salespeople so they understand that they own their own business within my business? How do I train them properly so they stay here for the longevity? How do I give them proper training? And as a dealership, when I went through my cycle, managers, it was supposed to be their role to kind of build the salesperson up, but they got overloaded throughout the dealership process that, they don't have time for that anymore. So rather than thinking, okay, I have this salesperson here, he has a lot of potential. First, I'm going to be his manager. Next, I'm going to be his coach. Then I'm going to be a teacher. Then I'm going to be his partner. Rather than following this guideline or having a plan for that person, they're just like, well, if you leave, I'll just replace you. And I'll replace you with the guy that's doing 10. And that's the business model. And it's not saying it's wrong to have to run a business, but there is definitely a better way of doing it. And there's the stores that are doing outstanding. You'll notice that they've had salespeople there for 10, 15, 20 years. And those veterans are managing their own business, and they no longer need to be babysat. They don't need a manager to tell them, where are you? Call your customer, because now they're in the partnership role. They give them the love and support and the tools that they need to succeed. And then they kind of let them run their own business within their business. That's the whole idea. And that's basically what I do at my dealership. And I need their support, and I need I need the tools that they provide me, but I'm also running my own business inside there.
You've got an entrepreneur mindset.
We all should, right? Because when I go in there, I turn on my light and I'm opening up my storefront, right? People are coming in to see, the brand name Ali Reda. That's where they're coming in to see, so if you drive that businesses to see me, then they're unlikely to shop you online or anywhere else. And, again, once you have that one opportunity and you sell them and, now you have, a whole army behind them with their family members and everybody else. I mean, that's, the whole idea. Social media is very, very important to use during and after a sale, right? Because then you can spread that to their family and say, hey, so-and-so is doing business with Ali. Maybe I need to look at that, right? Maybe I need to go there. And so you get the message out there, but, we as a business owner, I want to make sure that you have the right experience and that you are spreading good news about, your experience.
Are you working bell to bell?
Yeah, that's the perception, right? Everybody's like, oh, how do you have time to do anything? You're probably working 7 days a week. So okay, newsflash. My dealership is open 5 days. We're open Monday through Friday. We're literally closed on Saturday and Sunday, closed. And, Monday and Thursday till 8 p.m., Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday till 6 p.m. Now I get there an hour early and I probably leave an hour late. So it's about 52 hours a week.
And so inside of this, I think we're all dying to dissect now your process. So we know you're opening the store. We know you're closing the store. And we know that you have a limited window. And we also know that you have an abundance mindset.
Yeah.
That was one of the things, right, that I think as human beings, if we give our chattering brains so much as a nanosecond, we come up with excuse on excuse on excuse. So we hear, oh, well, he could do 209 cars a month because he's in a larger market than I am.
Right. Sure.
People in your market are saying, yeah, but it could be saying, but I sell Cadillac, Chevy in Ford, capital of planet Earth in Dearborn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, which is completely off brand. Like, shouldn't they dominate? Well, sure. It's impossible for me to sell Cadillac and Chevy in a Ford market. Yeah, so we reduce until we come up with a good enough excuse as to why this isn't possible. But you're looking at it from an abundance mindset. And so now I'm curious, can you bring us inside your process? What happens? How does this work? How do you sell 209 cars in a month?
Yeah, I mean, first it starts with the key word is relationship. That's where it starts, because there's two types of sales, Michael. You got a transactional sale, which is a customer that just walks in the dealership and says, I need a salesperson. They don't know you, they don't trust you, they don't understand you, they don't know who you are, they don't know what you're about. And that customer, that transactional sale does take a lot more time, and your closing ratio is probably 15 to 20%. When you go into relationship type business, it completely flips, right? You're only there for minutes, and they already trust you, they already know you, they already believe in you, and the time frame gets cut dramatically, and your closing ratio is probably closer to 90%, maybe 95%. And of that 95%, and this is the real kicker that people don't understand, is when you're in a relationship type sale, you become more of an advisor. And I've been trying to push people to say, instead of a salesman, we become advisors, right? I mean, you're buying $100,000 product. How am I not advising you to do what's best for you? And when you carry that advisor role through for your customer base and their benefit, and of course, we all have a job to do. So I have to protect myself, I have to protect the dealership, and I have to protect the customer. If you're an advisor, you can figure out a way to do all three of those things in a matter of minutes, right? So then if somebody comes in and says, well, Ali, what do you think? Now, all of a sudden, I'm making 95% of those decisions on what they should get, why they should get it, how they should get it. And they might choose, a couple minor things like color or, certain specs that they want, but they're not ultimately deciding the entire deal. When that happens, it's like when your doctor comes into your office, and this will make sense to you because this is how I mocked my entire process, right? And I mocked it through what doctors do. So, I'm thinking about it. How can I make this more fast and more efficient? How do doctors see so many patients throughout the day, right? They have people in place. They have a good process. So when you go in there and your doctor tells you, well, based on your symptoms that you told my nurse, right? Because the nurse comes in first, gets the preliminary, they get all the facts that they need. The nurse comes in, she briefs the doctor momentarily, and the doctor says, well, based on what we have here, it sounds like you have the flu. And here's what we're going to subscribe to you. We're going to give you this, and they give it to you. Okay, anything else going on? No, doc, I'm good. Thank you very much. Do you say, no, doc, I think you're wrong. Let's reanalyze this. Let's, unless it's something drastic, you're probably 95% going to say, okay, you're right, doc. I trust you. I trust your opinion. I trust what you're doing. I've been coming here for years, and I think you're correct. I got the flu. I'll take the medicine and I'll go home. You leave, and another person fills that office, and the nurse comes in, gets the preliminary. Doctor then goes to the next office, solves that problem, goes to the next office, solves that problem. And it's just rotating these offices. That's why they have 7 or 8 offices and a waiting area. So you're waiting, 7, 8 offices are all full. The nurses come in, take the preliminary measure, which my secretary comes in, my assistant, she comes in, she takes all the information that I need. I have 4 offices, and they're back to back to back to back. So when I saw that and thought, man, that's what I need to mock it off of, I went directly and I said, I need 4 offices. I need all these offices directly. I said, I don't want nobody behind me, and we need to get them. We need to move them because I have a lot of people waiting, and these 4 offices belong to me. So I got those offices, and now I have a person at every office at a different stage of the process. So my secretary will come in, she gets the information. What are you leasing now? How many miles you have on your car? What bank are you financed through? And she lays it out. When I come in, I have all the facts. All I need to do is solve the problem. So then I could spend 3 or 4 minutes catching up with the person, just chit-chatting, how are the kids, how's this, what's going on, anything new in your life? No, everything is good. Okay, here's what we got. What are you thinking? The same car, new type of car? Well, this time I want a pickup truck. All right, perfect. Here's what I suggest we do. Here's the pickup. I'm going to have somebody show you the car. And then I move over to the next office. So while they're doing that, now I'm working 5, 6 people at one time. And each person, the process is 20 minutes tops, right? 20 minutes each office. I got to get them out of there because the office, that's prime real estate. But when I'm in that office, Michael, that's all I'm focused on. I don't break action. I don't leave. I don't see who's yelling in the showroom. None of that matters, right? I'm focused. I'm solving that problem. I give them all my attention for that few minutes that I'm in there. And then I move on to the next person. And people love that. They love the fact that they're not fighting you. They love the fact that they're not talking to 12 different people. There's no going back and forth. There's no, if I could do it today, would you? There's no, there's none of that. It's literally sincere. It's honest. It's very transparent. And, they're out of there in a reasonable amount of time. So when you're doing it at that number, you can handle 4 or 5 people at one time, and each person's 20 minutes. That could be you're delivering the car every 5 minutes if you're doing it, right? So every 5 minutes, a car could be leaving. You got to have the right personnel to be able to do that. My assistant is absolutely phenomenal. Without her, I definitely couldn't be where I'm at today. And, but that's what we're doing. So, I needed a porter. I needed a personal porter, run the parking lot. So I got a personal porter. So in order to grow my business, I needed the right personnel. And those are the steps that you need. That makes sense?
I'm taking notes like crazy.
It's a lot to take in sometimes, but it's such a good process, man. It's so good. And, I feel that, being able to do it this way, I absolutely love what I do still. I love going into work. I think it's bought me a lot of time in the business that I would have probably not wanted to be in the business anymore, but I'm having fun, man. It's a really good, fun process, and it's duplicatable. It's teachable. Anybody can do it. And I lay it out there for everybody. The blueprint is there.
Yeah.
And I would submit that it's probably favorable, right? Like I'm just thinking about my last, car buying experience. Yeah. And I'm sure most folks can attest that it's certainly longer than 20 minutes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The longest thing that takes time is cleaning the car. So, and I got that down pretty good too, but it doesn't take that long of the actual process. Because if you come in and it's the second time or third time or fourth time or first time I dealt with you, chances are we have your information. We just verify what's correct, what changed, what didn't. I do my own finance. So while I'm talking to you, I have everything loaded and I can submit the deal while I'm talking to you. So I'm not going over to finance and saying, can you get this bought? And he puts it on the bottom of his stack of deals and says, I'll get to it in 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is. So as a salesperson, the more we can control, the faster things become and the more efficient. So I'm doing my own finance because it was much faster for me to do that. So I could submit a deal while you're standing there and my assistant's on the phone with your insurance company. By then, we just need to clean the car. And that I even solved when we have a hot vehicle, like Blazer is a hot leased item. So every morning I come in and I send 5 Blazers to prep. And I say, I need these cars cleaned up by 10, 11 o'clock. And I got 5 cars lined up right there. So when you come in, you're like, oh, I love the black Blazer. No problem. Here it is. It's clean. It's ready to go. So the car is already clean. So a lot of times the car is cleaned, ready to go, gassed. I mean, we're just, all we do is the paperwork. And if you're handling the more of it yourself, and I know a lot of dealerships, you can't do this yet. And that's the whole part of owning your own business and getting to the point where you are able to earn more responsibilities through your dealership. But the more you can do yourself, the faster everything will become.
What was the first thing you did going down this road, right? Because we know the average for the last 30, 35 years, maybe it's a little bit better now, but it's kind of hovers around that 8 to 10 vehicles per month. What did you do to, what was that first thing? So for the sales pros that are going to watch this, what's that? And they're sitting there and they're thinking, man, what do I do? I keep hitting 10. I'm sure 12 is possible. I'm sure 15 is possible. And even for the, the managers that are watching, how do I encourage my team to get to that next step? What did you do? What was that first thing that you could encourage the people that are going to watch this to do?
Man, I think first thing is believing that it's possible. And I think, again, that I was able to actually see somebody do it live and believed it, because like you said, a lot of people think, oh, Ali, works in an easy market and it's easy for him because he's been doing that forever. And of course I struggled at the beginning. I started with one car just like everybody else. Right. So, you have to believe in what's possible. If you don't believe it, if they doubt it and, they're never going to achieve that. So that was the first thing. I think I absolutely believed it. And, you got to educate yourself. A lot of these guys, they're just, in today's world, because a lot of people do know other people through social media or referrals, they're coming in specifically asking for somebody. There used to be a time where you'd sit at a dealership, people just walk in. That's not really happening that much anymore. If somebody's coming in, they're probably coming in to see somebody, whether it's been on social media or an email or a referral. So, for those people, you got to get involved in your community. You got to get out there and you got to be able to give back. And Michael, the reason why people give up, and I've seen it time and time again, and people call me from all over the country. They're like, hey, man, I went to a charity event and, I left and I sold no cars. Well, of course you sold no cars. First thing, you went there to sell a car and nobody there is interested in buying a car. What you want to do is go there and get to know people as a person, right? People got to know me as Ali. They didn't get to know me as Ali, the car salesman, right? That comes later. And the reason why people fail is because they give up way too early. It's premature. It takes years, right? It takes years for any business to take off. I mean, we're not, how long did it take Amazon to get to where they are? I mean, it takes years for them to develop and to trial and error and to get yourself out there. You're not going to show up at a charity event, sell a car. Nobody's there interested in buying a car. What they're interested in is you care about why they're there. And when you start carrying that mindset of, I need to get out there and I need to give back, and it could take 5 years before you see it reciprocated, right? But again, you're doing it for the right reasons. You feel good about it, and it goes something like the first charity event I went to, I sat at a table and I just sat there and listened, and then I went home. I think I talked to like 3 people at my table. And then the next one, I was more comfortable. I kind of mingled a little bit. I probably talked to 10 people. Then the third one, all of a sudden, I'm all over the place. By the 5th one, I'm speaking at there, right? Because I know everybody. I'm getting involved. I'm getting more into it. And now all of a sudden, I'm on stage, right? Now I'm doing my part. So then everybody there knows who I am because now I'm on stage. Guess what happens when you do that? Everybody comes up to you. You don't have to go to anybody else anymore. And then once in a while, somebody's going to mess up and say, hey, so what do you do? And then you're like, oh, I sell cars. Perfect. Oh my God, I need a car. I was looking for one last week. So that's how the conversation goes. Now imagine I go there and be like, I sell cars. Here's my business card. They're going to be like, get this guy out of here, right? It's not the 70s. You don't do that anymore. It's funny, but one thing you said, Michael, too, is the national average. In the 70s, it was 10, right? In the 80s, we started getting internet and we started getting all this stuff and it went up to 10. And then, in the 90s, we got all these trainers and we got all this, platforms and we're going to get you to, 12. Guess what? It was 10. And then the 2000s, you have social media and you have Facebook and you have all this stuff. And guess what? It went backwards. It's 9. I mean, so for the last 40 years, what has changed? Nothing. Nothing has changed. The business plan is the same. You want to sell 100, hire 10 people. I mean, at some point, me as a salesperson, as you guys are out there, you got to take the initiative. You got to say, okay, I'm not going to let them dictate what I'm doing. I'm not going to let them dictate what's possible. I'm going to do it. And I'm going all in, right? I'm going head first. I'm going all in. I don't care what anybody says. And it's going to work, right? If you believe in it, it's going to work and you'll find a way. I mean, we're pretty amazing. We'll find a way.
And you're never waiting for an up. Is really the hugest thing, right? You're not waiting for a lead or a call or whatever.
Literally. Yeah. I think part of it internally, I think you're right, Briar. I think internally, I hated going taking ups. I hated going up to a person and being like, hello, how are you? Welcome to, Les Stanford. How can I help? And I hated that feedback. I hated that, oh my God, this guy's out here to get me. And I hated that so much. I'm like, man, I don't want to wait on another up ever again in my life. And at some point I cut that off. And I think I probably psychologically built this relationship that I only want to deal with people that know me because I don't want them judging me just because I'm a salesman and I come out to greet you. I'm doing my job. I'm just coming here to greet you. Yet I don't greet you and you're mad because nobody greeted you. But if I do greet you, you're like, get out of here. So I'm confused. What do you want me to do? I hated it. So I said, you know what? I'm not dealing with anybody who doesn't know me. You don't know me. I don't want to deal with you either. And that was it. And that was at the end. I never took an up after that.
This all ties into why your personal brand is as powerful and impactful as it is, because you are demonstrating what makes a brand so strong. If I had $1 for every, sales pro over the last 7 years of doing my podcast who have messaged me saying, what do you think about going by like your Cadillac guy, Ali Reda? And I'd be like, gosh, dude,
don't get me started, dude.
If you spent the same energy just focusing on other human beings for a second, you wouldn't need to worry about your Cadillac guy or your Chevy dude and all these kinds of things. You would actually just be doing the thing.
Michael, you are so right on, man. I get messages from people all the time. They're like, I don't even know them, right? I have no idea who they are. I have no idea anything about them. They're like, what do you think about this logo? And I'm like, dude, I said, how long you been in the business? I just started like a month ago. I started a year ago. You don't even know who you are in the business. How could you actually come up with something? How could you come up with a slogan when you don't even know what your thing is, right? You just want to be the car guy. You don't know anything about the cars. So you have to, so many people that start out because they see a lot of these guys that are doing well on social media with these brand names, but they've built a business to create that. You cannot force a name on yourself. It has to be given to you. It has to come to you based on your actions throughout your career. So people call me all the time and they're like sending me stuff. I'm like, I don't even know what you do. I can't even answer that question because I have no idea who you are, what you do, how you do it.
It's almost like they're trying to reverse the whole process, right?
I said,
putting the
I'm like,
before the whole.
And I tell them that, and I'm like, I don't have a brand name. I said, I've been doing it for 20 years and I don't have, whatever it is. I don't have Alibaba and I, sell magic rides. I don't know what they want me to come up with. Right. It sounds cool, but to me, it's like more like, people know me as Ali. Right. I mean, that's so cool. I think you know me as who I am. Right. Forget about everything else. And eventually you could have something that catchy slogan that comes up. And I have an employee that I hired, a salesman that I hired, not, I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but I hired a salesman. His name is Carlos, and never sold a car before. And, he's 2 years in with me now and doing phenomenal. But it took me time, and all of a sudden he was selling a bunch of Silverados. I mean, he was just selling Silverados like they were like the last thing on earth. I mean, he was just doing so good with Silverados. So one day as I'm selling them, I'm like, man, you're the Silverado king. And then all of a sudden that just stuck, right? So all of a sudden, then now I can go with, if I want to put on his card, if I want to put somewhere, Carlos the Silverado king, because he actually fit the role. Had I tried to do that from day one and be like, man, I'm going to make you into Silverado king, it's not possible. I don't know who he is yet. So you have to be patient. You have to be patient in this business. With so many things that happen in this business, if you are not patient, I mean, you're just going to drive yourself crazy. So if you're patient enough to build your business and let things develop, let that come to you. And then sometimes it'll come to you and sometimes it won't. 20 years later, don't like anything that ever came to me. I just like being myself, right? I don't want the slogan. But for him, it just came out and it works and it's fun. And by the way, 2 years in, he's averaging 50 cars a month.
Wow.
In relationship only, right? Never, doesn't take a phone up, internet lead, floor up. He literally came in relationship based only. I gave him the blueprint. I'm his manager. I'm his finance manager. I'm his coach. I'm his teacher. I'm his partner. And I gave him the blueprint and he's actually a salesman that works for me. And this is his own numbers. This has nothing to do with the 209. It has nothing to do with my numbers. He's his own person. He just works under me for himself. And it's none of my customer base, but we built him up to the point where he hit 51 for the first time. And he's been averaging between 40, 45, and he hit 51, I think last month before, which is phenomenal coming in, not knowing anything. Yeah, pretty cool. I'm proud of him.
Man. It still took 2 years.
2 years. Yeah, 2 years right. In. 2 years
in. It wasn't
in.
Day one. It wasn't day one. He was probably doing 5. Do you want 10 guys who do 10, or do you want 5 guys who start out doing 5 and then in 2 years they're doing 40? Yeah,
right? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So we gave him the blueprint. It's there. It's proven, right? Anybody can do it. Again, it's duplicatable and it's learnable. And he followed that blueprint. He was the right person to do it. And we got him involved in his community. We got him involved in, we advertised him throughout his community, and that's how he built it. And all of a sudden, now that's what he's doing.
Man, this is, I just want to talk to you forever. How do we have just a Zoom that's open just for you and us? Just throughout the day, we can just like peer in and see what's happening over there
it's just, I get crazy sometimes because I'm just passionate about it. Right. And I know that it's not, it's not just, it's me. I mean, it's possible for anybody. It's not like, I done anything that's just, impossible. I believed in what was right. The car gods have been good to me. I followed my heart in many instances. I did it for the right reasons. I went out and got a coach, right? I got a trainer. I says, you know what? For everybody out there that's educating yourself, there was a point where I said, as a coach, they can see and do things that you cannot see or do, right? So my coach didn't change the way I talk. He didn't change the way I speak to customers. He didn't change my heart. He didn't tell me go say, this to a customer. All he did is made me aware of the best version of myself. When I became aware of why I feel the way I feel at certain times, why I don't like feeling certain things. Now I'm aware of it. I can become a better person, not a car salesperson. I can become a better person. And by default, I become a better car salesperson. But, and I says, well, Michael Jordan has a coach, and, Tom Brady has a coach, and their coaches have coaches. So why would I be so naive to think that I don't need help with somebody that can see something that I can't see? And, really it became one of the best things I've ever done, is to understand that, hey, I can learn from somebody, and I use them till today.
I have one last question for you as we wind down. And of course, we want to respect your time. Knowing you haven't eaten dinner yet. You haven't.
No, we're good. We're good. You're good. You have as much time as you want, Michael. I committed to you, buddy.
And I appreciate that. And that actually runs deep, I think, into everything that you're saying. The passion that you speak of. I mean, not only do we feel it, but the authenticity that we're feeling, I think, is just something that's so tremendous. You're not, you know, what we typically do in this instant gratification world is we embellish everything. Maybe you sold 30 cars in 1 month once, and all of a sudden you're the billionaire car salesperson, and you're photoshopping yourself on the cover of magazines, and you're doing all these things. And look, I'm an international speaker because I'm speaking to a bunch of people in Canada over Zoom, and we have this thing built into wanting to do that stuff. But we just feel the genuine, nature that you have, and I think that's why you are a true champion in this, and it all just comes down to service. Speaking about coaches, what's your recipe for selecting a coach? Because to my earlier point, somebody sold 15 cars once. They were the top salesperson in their store, and they go, I'm going to get into coaching, and I'm going to go coach people. How do you select a coach? Because there are a lot of, dare I say, posers out there.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, it's not easy. You gotta share the same energy, right? When we produce energy out of our soul and our heart, the energy that you produce, you have to listen to that, right? So if it tells you that, meeting somebody is right, that's how you meet your significant other. That's how you become friends with certain people. So when you're aware of that, hey, I am producing this positive energy, and finding a person that shares the same goals that you can understand and you can relate to. And it doesn't have to be a paid coach, right? It could be your parent. It could be your friend. It could be a mentor. It could be somebody that you call every day on the way to work that loves and supports you. That's the person, right? Not somebody that's, out to get you, or somebody that's, hates to see you succeed. And those are those cancers, for lack of better words. You have to cut those out of your life at some point. You have to be aware that they are there, so you can understand that, hey, I don't need this in my life. I'm better than this. I need to move on and become a better person. So, finding that person in your life that loves you unconditional, that supports you no matter what. I mean, that's the type of deal I'm talking about. And, they're around you. You just have to be aware of who they are, and you have to open up your heart, your mind to accept that, and to say, hey, I can learn from this person, right? I could, hey, we all get off that phone call and you say, man, I just love talking to that person, right? That person makes me feel good. So, that's the type of thing that you have to be aware of, understanding that just happened, rather than saying, wow, that was a good conversation, see you later, and that was it. So it's just those type of things. And we go through these motions in life that we're so oblivious to what's actually happening that we miss it, right? Stop for a minute and slow time down and just say, let me absorb this. What just happened? Okay, why did that conversation feel so good? Or why did I feel horrible after I said that? Or why, man, that was such an amazing, that person produces, the best smile, and they made me smile just looking at them. Those are the type of things that we need to slow time down and realize that's what's happening around us. And, for me, I was blessed to meet Damien, my coach, by mistake, right? I met him, he was training, and, I started talking to him, and he was, saying all the things that I felt, but I didn't know there were things. I didn't know that relationship selling was a thing, right? Nobody ever talked about it. I didn't know that actually meant something. And I'm like, wow, I do that. Or wow, I do that. And it resonated with me. And afterwards I pulled him to the side and we just started talking and we became friends. And, as I listened to the guy, I says, wow, man, this guy is knowledgeable. He understands and sees things that I can't see. And I'll tell everybody to this day is he just made me aware that's it. That's exactly what he did. And that was his intended purpose, was to make me aware. And that changed my life.
Wow. He sounds amazing.
Oh, you got to get him on your show. I mean, you talk to him and you'll understand. You want to get somebody that's,
anybody that can refer me? Or
yeah, maybe. I'll twist somebody's arm, but you guys will get him on the show and you'll understand what I'm talking about. And he's just very knowledgeable, and he speaks from his heart, and everything is genuine. And that type of person resonated with me, and he's a family member to me now. It's just no longer just a person in my life.
Man, I can't thank you enough for joining us here. I know you're passionate. I am passionate. I want to just keep listening to you, but I'm not going to do that to you. And certainly we appreciate our client partners who have joined us. Everything you've said resonates so deeply with us because that's really the mission that we're on here at Flex. It's why I produce the Dealer Playbook. It's all about enriching and enhancing the lives of automotive professionals. And to go beyond that, really to do that, the best way I believe is to think beyond the four walls of the dealership. To say, hey, how am I? How are all facets of my life? How can I be a top performer if things aren't good at home? If I'm not spiritually centered, if I'm not grounded, if I'm, a naysayer and a skeptic and a negative Nancy and all of the, whatever the terms you can think of that typically are the stigma attached to this industry, that it's a Shark Tank and whatever. You're proving that is not the case. You're proving there is, in fact, a more efficient way. And the beauty of it is that you could look at it two ways. And those that look at it the second way that I'm about to mention are the ones that are going to continue to stand up and stand out like you are. The first way is, man, this is going to take too long. That sounds like it takes time. But, oh boy, I like what he's saying, but whoa. The second group of people are going, oh yeah, I totally can do this. This sounds extremely difficult, but the time's going to pass anyway. And so long as the past time's anyway, I might as well do something with that time.
You owe it to yourself, right? You owe it to your family. You owe it to yourself to give it your all. I'm not one to say work yourself to death. I'm not doing that. But at the beginning, you got to put in the time. Right, Michael? I mean, you and I both know that there's no substitution for work. I mean, you run this program here and you run the Zoom calls and you got all the behind the scenes work. And there's a lot of work that goes into this. And you have to get out there and put yourself out there and say, I know it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. You got to have a plan. You got to be able to see, okay, 5 years from now, I'm hoping to be here in my career, not we talked about earlier, waiting for an up to come in or, waiting for people to show up. You got to have a plan, you got to execute, and you owe it to yourself to try it out. And if it doesn't work, so be it. Try something else.
Amazing. So one final question for you before we wind down. How can those joining us on the call or those of our client partners that'll watch after the fact here, how can they get in touch with you?
Man, I mean, I'm on social media. I mean, you can reach out to me anytime. You can message me. You can instant message me anytime. My phone number is listed on my Facebook page. I mean, you can reach out to my phone. You can call me anytime. I'm always available to help when I can. But if you message me and it takes me a day to get back to you, forgive me, but I will get back to people. And I get messages all the time from people across the country, and it's good to help people, but you can't solve everybody's problems in a few minutes. So people got to get out there, listen to these podcasts and listen to different shows that are out there, because that's how you educate yourself. But anytime I can help out somebody, man, I'm happy to do so. And again, it's a pleasure to be on here with you, Michael. I appreciate you having me on and caring enough to help somebody's life. So if this helps one person get over that edge, then it was so worth it.
I'm Michael Cirillo, and you've been listening to the Dealer Playbook Podcast. If you haven't yet, please click the subscribe button wherever you're listening right now. Leave a rating or review and share it with a colleague. Thanks for listening.